Hey everyone, welcome back. Well, another day, another new Spinosaurus discovery. So you know what that means? All your old Spinosaurus figures are now obsolete yet again, which brings us to the topic of today's review. Today we're taking a look at the GR Toys 135 scale Spinosaurus figure, which incorporates the latest discovery. This figure is the first offering from GR Toys, and I have to say, for their first figure, I am very impressed with this Spinosaurus. I ended up getting this figure from Lana Time Shop. It was my first time ordering from them, and I have to say I am very impressed. The figure came very well packed, good email communication, so I'll definitely be doing business with them again in the future. This figure retails for just over $60, so it puts it roughly in that price point as the limited edition Papo Spinosaurus that came out earlier in the year. So before we take a closer look at this figure, let's take a quick look at the packaging. The packaging is very reminiscent of P&S. So let me just get my white balance correct. So there are two versions of this figure. I obviously went for the green version. There is a orange version, and that paint scheme is very similar to the limited edition Papo Spinosaurus. But you get pictures of both versions on the front of the box. Up here in the corner is the logo for GR Toys. And on the top of the box, I thought this was pretty cool. They have all the different reconstructions Spinosaurus has gone through over the years, starting with the earliest reconstruction from 1936 when it just basically looked like a generic theropod with a sail on its back. The now famous 2014 reconstruction with those shorter legs, and now the new reconstruction. The biggest difference is that paddle tail that was recently discovered, and that paddle tail is what is now incorporated on this model from GR Toys. And you'll also get a little collector's card inside the box. It's the same artwork that is on the front of the box, but still a nice thing to include nonetheless. So enough about the packaging. Let's take a closer look at this figure. So moving on to this really awesome looking Spinosaurus. This thing just looks absolutely fantastic. I love the paintwork on it. The quality is great. It's very similar to a Papo figure, and you can see that huge sweeping paddle-like tail, beautifully sculpted on this figure, reflecting the latest research on this dinosaur that I feel like keeps changing every few years. And this is a good size figure, so let's just do a couple of quick measurements. This figure is pretty much 16 inches from the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail, and just about, I end up breaking my ruler, about just under 5.5 inches tall to the top of that highest spine. So Spinosaurus is a big boy, estimated between 49 and 52 feet long. So with those measurements, that'll put this figure nicely in that 135 to 140 scale range, depending on which measurement you want to go with. Moving on to the pose of this figure is sculpted in an active walking pose. The right arm is held out forward like it's about to take another step. The back legs are short as they should be, and you can see the back foot right here is just about to lift off the ground. And then the tail, I just absolutely love the beautiful sweeping motion sculpted on the tail right here. It looks like it's just ready to propel this huge dinosaur through the water, and that head sculpt looks absolutely great on this figure. The eye is painted in gold with a black pupil. The nostril is sculpted in right here, and this figure does have an articulated jaw, and the articulation works really great on here. It's not as refined as what Papo does. I always say it every time I bring up Papo and their jaw articulation. They are among the best in the business, but this jaw articulation is still really well done. The teeth are all painted in white, and there is no sloppy paint. And then bringing it in a little bit closer, you can see there's some excellent paint on the gum tissue in the mouth. You actually can see they painted in veins in the mouth, and I think that is a great touch. And inside the mouth, the tongue has some nice detail with some more of that purple paint to signify veins, and even the roof of the mouth is beautifully done. Absolutely love the job they did inside the mouth. Then underneath the jaw, you can see some large scales sculpted in, and then turn it around, get a nice profile of the Spinosaurus skull, and that looks absolutely fantastic. The crest of the top is painted in brown. Then you have some very large crocodile looking scoots sculpted along the top of the neck of this figure, and then you have the nice long Spinosaurus neck, and then going down to the arms. The arms have some really nice muscle definition, a lot of nice sculpted detail. The inner thumb claw is sculpted really large, as it should be. The nice black and brown paint over the claws, and then going down to this hand right here, you can see it looks like this animal's put a lot of his body weight, so very nice sculpting on this hand. And then going down to the body, you can see some more folds, wrinkles, a lot of nice scale detail, more of those scoots going down the side of the body. The sail is beautifully sculpted, a lot of nice detail in here. You get some black highlights on the top of the sail. Then you have a mix of orange and yellow for the mid part of the sail. And then going down to the legs, you can see the very small and short Spinosaurus legs are sculpted in really well. And even there's some webbing between the toes. And then going down to that beautifully now accurate Spinosaurus tail. I absolutely love the look of this tail. I love how the green just slowly goes to a yellow color. You have some nice black highlights in there, and these really, really large scales on the top near the end of the tail just looks absolutely great. So I think this whole figure is just beautifully, beautifully well done. Definitely accurately represents the newest information we have on Spinosaurus. And before we move on to comparisons, let me just do my dino butthole check. And the figure does have a cloaca slit. I initially thought it might have been part of the seam for the tail, but the seam for the tail is up here. So, yep, it does have a spinal butthole. And here's one more quick look at the webbing on the feet of this figure. So, with all this out of the way, let's move on to comparisons. All right, first up for comparisons, here it is with the old Papo Spinosaurus, and here it is with the new Papo Spinosaurus. I'm going to try to get all these into frame, and you kind of have like a nice little, Spinosaurus through the years with these three figures, and you can see Papo kind of accidentally got lucky with this figure this year. Theirs kind of already had a paddle-like tail, so for a time being, the Papo one was considered to be the most accurate Spinosaurus figure on the market. And you can see the paint scheme on this one is very similar to the orange version of this one right here, but the paddle tail on the GR Toys one is much thicker, longer, and more pronounced than the eel-like tail we got on the Papo, but the Papo one is still a really good figure. And next up, for comparison, another Spinosaurus. Here it is with the PNSO Spinosaurus, and this is always such a big figure to get fully into frame. The PNSO one kind of has a paddle-like tail at the end right here. This was a really cool figure when it came out a couple years ago. I actually applauded PNSO for doing a tail in this style. I felt like at the time everyone was just doing a crocodile-like tail on Spinosaurus during that year. And speaking of crocodile-like tail, here is the Collect A one. You can see what I mean by that crocodile-looking tail. I just never liked that look at all on Spinosaurus. And here is another Spinosaur from various other companies. Here is the thing Papo decided to call a Baryonyx with that very, very Spinosaurus-looking head. Let me try to get them better into view. Here's the old Carnegie Collection Baryonyx, and here is the new Collect A Baryonyx, which is a great Baryonyx figure. And lastly, can't do a Spinosaurus comparison without comparing it to a T-Rex. Here it is with the PNSO Wilson, and I think these two figures look really, really nice next to each other. The GR Toy Spinosaurus is just a little bit longer than Wilson right here. Let me just get Wilson in the back. So I think these two figures scale really, really well with each other. And since we're talking about large theropods, here is the Eofauna Giganotosaurus. So if you want a display of like the big three theropods on your shelf, I think these three figures look really great next to each other because they scale pretty well. And one last thing, I was playing around with the base from the PNSO Spinosaurus. This figure actually works really well on that base. It doesn't really line up with the footprints in the back, but it works, and that just looks absolutely fantastic on the PNSO Spinosaurus base. You got the swordfish right there. I know it's not a swordfish. I just cannot think of that animal's name right now, but I think they look really, really great next to each other. So if you do have the old PNSO Spinosaurus, you could definitely drop this GR Toy Spino on that base. So, final thoughts on this Spinosaurus figure from GR Toys. I absolutely love it. They are the first company out of the gate with a new Spinosaurus figure incorporating the latest discovery, and this figure is really well done. The paintwork and sculpting are absolutely fantastic. Like I said, it's very comparable to a Papo figure, and that $60 price point makes it cost just around as much as the limited edition Papo Spinosaurus. So yeah, it is definitely a figure I highly recommend if you want the most accurate version of Spinosaurus in your collection. You don't need to look any further than this figure right here. And since this is the first offering from GR Toys, I'm really excited to see what they produce in the future because, for this being their first figure, it is beautifully well done. I know less than 2 years ago, it felt like it was like the year of the Spinosaurus. Everyone was cranking out a new Spinosaurus figure to incorporate those short back legs. And I feel like the same exact thing is going to happen again within the next year or so. Everyone's going to try to rush and incorporate that paddle tail into their own version of Spinosaurus, which is already happening because Safari teased over a week ago that they have a new Spinosaurus coming. We've only seen a fuzzy silhouette, but from looking at that picture, you could tell it's going to be a updated Spinosaurus, and I'm sure Collecte will probably have one ready this year too. They're always really, really quick with their turnaround on making new figures, incorporating the latest discoveries. So yeah, expect a lot more Spinosaurus figures in the near future. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I end up getting this figure from Lana Tyne's shop. It retails for just over 60 bucks. Link is in the description if you want to order this figure for yourself. So that will do it for the review. I have pretty much all the new PNSOs that have been revealed over the last 2 weeks or so. So those should be rolling in within the next couple weeks, and then I have all the Beasts of the Mesozoic figures coming in. So a lot of reviews are coming up in the next month, so stay tuned for those. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously and is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.